Pickle, let's go to the hotline. We continue our wall-to-wall coverage of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift by bringing in an expert. We're pleased to be joined by the Hall of Famer Craig Way, who I know dedicated multiple segments yesterday on the Craig Way Show to the topic. Craig, do you read me?
I almost got all the way through my daily show without a mention of those two until my producer brought it up 10 minutes before going on. So you would have to do that.
Man, that's the 18th green. You'll leave the putt short. That's it's tough. You're almost there.
So close.
Oh, wow.
So close when it happened. It's running out of gas a mile to the finish line at the Indy 500.
It's tough. It's a tough thing. Let's talk a little Texas high school football, Craig. Last week, we entered the week looking at a number of kind of make or break games for a couple of teams, especially state ranked teams. And my take, and I know we mentioned this on Scoreboard on Friday night, my take on it was when you took a look at the big results from Friday night, it was a great night to be a defensive coordinator and the kind of guy. If you're the kind of person who watches a football game and you like 20-14, it seemed like Friday night, at least at the really top of the table type games, those seemed like your kind of night.
You know, my former co-host Jeff Howe, who you know really well, and also is really closely affiliated with a lot of the Dave Campbell's Texas football recruiting scene, says that in his hometown of Florence, Texas, where high school football is kind of lean these days, he says there's guys that'll sit down there at a little convenience store in a back room and sit there and I won't say place a wager, but they will say how they feel that some high school football games are going to go over or under. And I will say this, they must have had a field day last weekend with all those games. With Fort Bend Marshall and PNG, they must have been turning cartwheels with 7-zip on that one. Because you don't get that very often. You're more likely, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if you think I'm wrong, I think you're more likely to get Liberty Hill Hutto 82-80 on a given Friday night than you are 7-0, based on the way offensives have gone and the way that the game is played now. I'm glad we don't have too much of either one or the other, but it's nice to see it sprinkled in from time to time.
I'll put it to you this way. Last year, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. About 15 games that had 7 or fewer points scored. And there were significantly more than that had more than 110 points scored. So I think that you're right. Without doing some quick back of the envelope math, that seems correct. I want to go back to the game that we talked about a lot last week, which was Lake Travis and Westlake, and Westlake pulls out a 20-14 win over their rival. What are your real takeaways from that game? Specifically because I think we knew that both defenses looked like they were on the good foot. Do you take away that these are two good defenses? Do you take away that these are two offenses that have some work to do? Do you take away both? What are you gleaning from this one?
Well, you've heard me use this comparison before. When you're looking at it defensively and offensively, this is Winnie the Pooh being invited to lunch at Rabbit's house, and he says, "Do you want honey or condensed milk with your bread?" And he says, "Both." And then he says, "But don't bother about the bread." So what I came away from that game thinking was that these are two programs, traditional powers, of course, with Arlington caliber defenses that can get them to Arlington. However, I don't know that either has Arlington caliber offense right now. Not say it won't happen. We're after all just at cresting the halfway point of the regular season. The defenses are made to look better if the offenses aren't quite that far along. And I think the answer is somewhere in between, a sliding scale there for both Westlake and Lake Travis. Obviously, they'll both be in the playoffs. Obviously, they'll both be Region 4 threats. I think it's all but a given that they're both going to be in Division 1. I mean, only Del Valle can prevent that from happening if they get in. Otherwise, Westlake's definitely going to be in D1, and we know Lake Travis is in D1. They have the largest enrollment in 26-6A. So, there'll be threats, but do they have enough offense to hang with, say, if they get to a semifinal in the North Shore, or maybe somebody else out of Region 4? That's the unanswered question right now. But what is, I think, apparent is that both have really good defenses.
Craig Way, the Texas High School Hall of Famer, join us every Tuesday. I'm here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation at #TF Today. Let me stay in the Austin area and let me stay with those two teams, because let me throw out an opinion and have you try it on for size. Lake Travis and Westlake are not, neither of them are the best team in Austin this year. But in fact, Vandegrift is the best team in Austin this year. It's been a long time since the best team in Austin wasn't either LT or Westlake, and yet the more I look at this, the more I wonder if it's not the Vipers who would take the cake in the capital city.
Good enough to beat both and to go the distance. Drew Sanders would probably be the first to tell you, give me a couple more weeks. Let me see what this, how they do in district play. They had a manageable, not bad, but manageable non-district schedule. And I think they are one of the best teams. And where I'm curious to see is if they go D1 or D2, because if they go D1, it's going to be really, really crowded there in Region 4 out of the greater Austin area, because you're going to have a bi-district matchup in all probability of Vandegrift against Lake Travis, or possibly against Westlake if there were a couple of stumbles along the way. And we almost saw that last year. And Vandegrift wound up going D2 because of some things that happened on the final Friday night of the regular season. That might not happen this year, and we'll have to keep an eye on teams like Vista Ridge, and we'll have to keep an eye on teams like Westwood to see if they get in and tip the scale a little bit one way or the other about Vandegrift. But they're good enough, absolutely, to hang with both of those teams, if not beat them both.
Well, it's the meanest thing we do to each other each week, and it's asking you to pick one game to go to. Week 6 is a light week, relatively. There's only 515 games across the state. I'll give you 3. You can only teleport to one of them. Do you teleport to Brownwood for the Battle of 377 between Stephenville and Brownwood? Do you teleport to Columbus for Madisonville and Columbus? Or do you teleport to Gale, Texas for a matchup of unbeatens in the 6-man ranks as Abbott visits Borden County?
Boy, they each have great appeal. Stephenville, Brownwood, great tradition, great history, and great chicken fried steak all along that route. The Columbus, Hallettsville, not Hallettsville, the Columbus, Madisonville matchup, I think is probably the one I'd lean toward. But that 6-man thing is a top 10, and it could be back-to-back weeks of 6-man top 10 matchups there, obviously, for Abbott. Now, did they move that game from Gale? I thought I'd read or heard somewhere they were going to play that game in Zephyr. Or are you seeing Gale? In any event, it's going to be a great game, no matter where it's played. And
that game is at Zephyr. I apologize. Yes,
it's where?
It's at Zephyr. You got it right.
Okay, all right. Great facility, by the way, there at Zephyr for 6-man. But I'd probably lean toward Madisonville, Columbus. We're not getting many highbrow non-district games now. The teams are settling in the district play now. So, and in a higher classification, I know it's non-district in that 6-man game, but in a higher classification, there are scant few, especially on a weekend where there are scant few games, period. I was really kind of worried about you, Tep, there, the way you were grousing on social media about the, veritable dearth of football to be had this weekend. I was a little concerned that you were going to be, angry old man shaking his fist at the clouds about this weekend.
Don't keep me from a good time. I'll grouse with the best of them. I do want to, before we let you go, I need to check on you. I know Pickle and I have been pretty worried about you because of what happened Friday night with Kearns 36 and Itasca 31 as the Wampus Cats get knocked from the ranks of the unbeatens. Are you doing okay?
I am. I think there's something to be encouraged about there, about the progress of the Wampai. They've had so many lean seasons, and to stand toe to toe, Jerry Forrest had it pegged, and he had the number. I think he had Curran's winning by 4, and he won by 5. So I think he had Westlake winning by 6, and he won by 6. Jerry was right on it. The computer was right on board with it. So we'll follow him and see. The Big I has turned its fortunes around, I think, and I think we definitely will see them in the postseason.
He's Craig Way. He's the Texas High School Ball Hall of Famer and the state's #1 Itasca Wampus Cats supporter. Catch him on the Craig Way Show today, 2 to 4 on AM 1300 The Zone in Austin. Craig, appreciate your time, my friend, and I will talk to you this afternoon.
Let me tell you this. Itasca is doing much better than my eponymously named Wampus Cat fantasy football team, which is 0-3.
Oh, it's tough. Oh, man. We can turn it around, though. It's early in the season. It's early days yet, Craig. We can do it.
Yeah, but Aaron Rodgers ain't walking back through that door, folks.
Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
See ya.
There he goes, Craig Way with the Fantasy Football Minute here on Texas Football Today.
We keep adding minutes.
I also love that there was no doubt that his fantasy football name was named after a high school football mascot, right? That was the lock of the year.
Yeah, yes.
Like, I'm sure he just picks one, and like next year it'll be like the Tarpons or something,
Yeah.
or the Saber Cats.
Nothing will be as good as the Wampus Cats, though.
It is. It's
at
pretty
least
good.
Not in his heart.
Anyway, we appreciate Craig Way hopping on with us. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.